So when I first started out, I had this bright idea that I want to get industry experts on board. That means I want to get a bunch of advisors that mainly were operators. They have experience operating medical practices, hospitals, right, and just general healthcare management, operations experience. And I thought I needed a whole bunch of these people to be on my team when we buy the business, and they tell us, "Hey, this is how we're going to grow the business. I know this about that business. I've operated it before." But then I thought about it. I'm like, that doesn't make sense because we have a seller who's actually started the business, grown the business for the past 20, 25, 30 plus years. And some guy who has experience running that kind of business before doesn't necessarily mean they're going to know what's best for that particular business. So today I want to talk to you about how you gain industry experience and knowledge, right? Not so much the experience, but more industry knowledge and insight about your industry before you start to, go out there and try to create this acquisition platform. If you want to get into, let's say, a little bit more complex industry, medical devices, you say, look, I want to buy medical device manufacturing companies, and it is something that's a little bit challenging, but if we pull it off, I believe we can have a $1 billion exit or plus, and this is the plan how we're going to do this and that. We're going to approach universities and go to their R&D department and speak to the head of R&D and actually find out what kind of technology that's interesting that they could out-license to you. And you and your team work on that, right? Which you would ultimately pay for the the formation of the company, which you're gonna put the technology in. And before you even do that, you're actually gonna need a medical advice or scientific advisory board to look at that technology to see that there's potential behind it. And you're gonna need to spend about $2 million on research and development, R&D. And if your team thinks that's something that's gonna work out, you're gonna need to spend another $2 million on filing a 510K. That is what's required when you're talking about medical devices. The FDA have to give it approval, and there's a rigorous testing process that it goes through. And it's called the 510K process, or filing for you to get approved by the FDA, and it takes about 2 years, right? So you can say, I want to do all of that, but how do you know to put that together? How do you know where to go? And the way that I found out all of this is by interviewing these guys that were experts in the field. So I looked for people who had a background in not only doing the 510K research or filing with the FDA, but most of the people I spoke with were more scientists, doctors, scientists, biotech engineers I spoke with, and just a lot of industry leaders when you're talking about medical devices, right? Class level 2, level 3 medical device. If you're talking about that, then you're going to need specific knowledge and insight about how these very complex things come together for you to be able to pull it off, right? But all I did was interview people that were experts in their field that had a background in doing that. But you have to ask the right questions, right? So when you're interviewing these guys, you have to ask, hey, first of all, you want to know about their success, mostly their failures, and how they got to where they are right now. But you also want to find out if they were starting over again and they were in your shoes, what would they do to actually start? Where's the research? Where does it come from? Where do I go to conduct research? Who else can you recommend that I speak to? And that individual is going to actually give you a lot of golden nuggets. I would actually recommend you record that call because you're not going to be able to, even if you're taking notes, you can't capture everything. So I would record that call and listen to it over and over and over. And while you're hearing certain points that's being dropped, simply go to Google, conduct some research. I have a video about how to conduct research coming up, but go to Google, conduct some research on some of the main points that person talks about, and read up on it, right? You read up on that, and next thing you know, when you speak to someone else and you're actually explaining what your thesis or your goals, your strategy, your plan is, whatever it is for your company, you're actually going to be able to, kind of recall some of the knowledge that, some of the things that you've been learning about. And if you listen to that audio, again, it's going to sound a little bit more fluid because you've had the conversation already and you're just replaying it in your mind, right? But you're also bringing up some of the points or some of the insights that were shared with you, you can actually tell the person, hey, I know this is how we're going to address this part. We're going to address that this way. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But this thing actually works for any industry. This approach works for any industry. So if you're looking to get started and you want to learn a little bit more than what's just on, IBIS World or Google or on the internet, you want to learn kind of like real world what's happening right now and learn from the experts, that's the number one way to go about it. You have to interview people, and it's easy. If you don't know where to go, you just create an account on LinkedIn. Many of you are already on there. You just go to LinkedIn and just search for the title that you're looking for, right? Again, if I'm in medical devices, I'm looking for scientists, biomedical engineers, or whoever has that background. I'm looking for healthcare leaders. Surprisingly, salespeople can tell you a lot about a product sometimes, a little bit more than some of the higher ups in the company, believe it or not, just because they have to sell that product and they have to know a lot about it because the customer is going to have a lot of questions. So it doesn't matter if, whatever the product is, some salespeople, they know a lot about that. So you may want to interview a little bit of salespeople as well. But I would, look at the salesperson background and kind of get a feel for how successful they are and how much they know. Salespeople usually have like industry leader type of description in their bio. So on LinkedIn, that's the best place to go to reach out to these people and just ask them for about 10, 15 minutes of their time so you can get their perspective on the landscape of that industry. Very simple, and send a connection. Again, write down really great questions before you get on the call because, if you ask a lousy question, then you get a lousy answer. A great question, you get a great answer, right? So that's what the video was about today. Again, if you found value in this, remember, give me a like, subscribe, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. And also go to IB University if you want to, kind of get a summarized version of a PDF version of what I just talked about, right? So go to ibuniversity.org/membership and you'll get a copy of the PDF or of what we talked about in the PDF format. All right, guys, catch you later.